And thank you so much for joining me on for our edification. Joining me is Dave Delaney. The best thing about Dave is that he got the blue shirt memo for this
I did.
episode. Good job, Dave. Thank you so much. You and me, man. We're right here. And
Exactly.
so the
Exactly.
other thing about Dave is that he is a communications expert. All right, check, that works out. And then also he is a podcast host. Check, that works out. Greatest name for a podcast. And we're going to explain why this is such a good name for this podcast, the Wise Squirrels Podcast. And then he is a leadership coach and a speaker. Check on the speaker thing. Dave, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm great, Eddie. Thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah. So Dave is one of these folks who I ran across on Threads, and he raised his hand one day and says, "Hey, I'm looking for spots on the podcast. If anyone could use me." And so when I looked him up, I thought, okay, great. We have got to have some good conversation happening here. And Dave, I have to tell you, um, when I saw that you do ADHD coaching, or at least coaching with ADHD leaders with ADHD, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, yep. Okay, this is gonna be a very interesting conversation. But the
Yeah.
reason I love the name of Dave's Squirrel, the name of his podcast so much, is that, and I'm gonna let Dave tell this story. Wise Squirrels. Okay, so please tell me
Yes.
what does the
Yes.
name of that podcast even mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was diagnosed with ADHD at 50, so just a handful of years ago. And being, I've been podcasting now on and off for 20 years. I started podcasting in '05. And so, being sort of an early adopter in a lot of social and digital and blogging and all the things, um, when I was diagnosed, I realized like I wanted to share my experiences and basically share what I was learning with the world to support them. And so was I I had decided, okay, I'm going to start a podcast about it and a website, a blog, and a Substack as well. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, what am I going to call it? And I kept thinking about squirrel as in, Doug the dog from the movie Up, the classic ADHD meme of squirrel. Uh, and so that kept mulling around in my head, but I didn't want it to be, like insulting and that can be a bit of it's not, ADHD isn't all laughs. And so, um, I started thinking about it more and more, and I landed on, wise squirrels, and wise because of, my podcast and everything I'm doing is for late diagnosed adults with ADHD. So it's specifically for folks like myself, who were diagnosed later in life. And so with age and with experiences comes wisdom, right? I mean, we learn things. And in addition to that, wise also sort of represents the coping mechanisms that we develop and the masking that we do, both, really unknowingly until you're diagnosed. So you're like, back in my drinking days, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or as a keynote speaker standing on stages, I'm like, I'm getting a rush of dopamine from the audience. And I'm like, aha, okay. And so, if there was like a drinking game associated with ADHDers, it all makes sense would be the point that everybody takes a drink. Cause I think everybody says that. But maybe, yeah. Anyway, so wise
Nah.
squirrels comes from that.
I'm with you on that one. And so Dave and I, we shared with each other before we started the recording. He's diagnosed at 50. I was diagnosed at 53.
Yeah. Fellow
And
wise squirrel.
yeah, and that's why the name, it made sense to me immediately. Honestly, it just
Yeah.
did. But the thing that I really love to do is I love to get an idea what people's stories are and where moments of transformation have been, particularly in their careers. And so, Dave, I wanted to ask you. I want you to think back to a point in your life when you just lost footing, whatever that footing was, whatever area of life it was, and how it impacted not only who you are, but what you do. So, can you think of a moment in life that you really, really lost your footing, And how did you respond to that moment?
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. So really, it wasn't that long ago. I think 2020. Um, while that was before I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was diagnosed in 2023, but 2020, when the world was imploding, you know, and it was a scary time for everybody, and just like the world was upside down for everybody, and then you add in March of 2020, we had a tornado go through Nashville, and that destroyed our kids' school and a whole bunch of other problems that it caused. And 3 months to the day, then a derecho hit Nashville, which is a word I'd never heard before, which is a straight line wind storm, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and that left us with 10 holes in our roof, all from trees that were shot like missiles, or branches like missiles. And so we had we had one big limb kind of shish kebab through our roof into the attic, into the living room, right over the seat that I'd been sitting in just minutes before. So, and in addition to that, it was also sort of my dad's last year, uh, kind of his last year of dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and all that. And so during that time, I realized, man, I've got to make some changes. Both because I don't want to get dementia and Alzheimer's, and also because I was drinking a little too much, like just a little more than usual, but enough to realize like I should take 30 days off and just stop drinking for 30 days. And I found non-alcoholic beer. That's come a long way. And so long story short, in 2020, I quit drinking. That's 6 years ago. I got a sleep apnea test to try to not get Alzheimer's, and had sleep apnea. So I got that, and started meditating, a daily meditation practice that I take quite seriously.
Mm.
And then that all also helped me kind of shift focus, because as a speaker, and the bulk of my business was really speaking and coaching. But at the time, obviously speaking was kind of dried up pretty quickly, because conferences weren't happening during the pandemic. Um, but I was a speaker for Google at the time for about 6 years with them. And so we shifted everything to virtual, but it was just such a big year of making major pivots to improve my own mental health, even pre-diagnosis. And then once I was diagnosed in 2023, launching the podcast and coaching other, folks with ADHD or without. Yeah. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but it was really sort of 2020 and everything that came along with that, plus our bonus stuff. And then the ADHD diagnosis as well.
So, how did this impact your professional life?
Well, I mean, speaking, as I said, like the whole industry for public speaking was done.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody was hiring speakers, and the speaker, all the prospective clients that I had, were saying basically that they're going to put their conferences on hold and their association events on hold and all these things. So, all of that stuff at the time, my business was like 75% speaking and 25% coaching.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was
Yeah.
a major kick in the pants. And so that was the major kind of upset in the business really at that time. So
And when you think about your ability to adapt, what did you
mm,
learn about your ability to adapt to this kind of major shift? And what did you also learn about your resilience?
yeah, well, luckily I had enough sense to kind of improve my own well being, just to show up better as a dad and husband and business owner, right? So I took all those steps as I mentioned. Um, I studied improv at Second City in Toronto,
Oh,
where I'm
man, that's
originally from.
cool.
Yeah. So I performed a ton of improv over the years. And actually, that is part of the curriculum that I teach sometimes, depending. but in my keynotes and workshops and presentations with leaders, teaching them some skills from improv. And so the reason why I mentioned that is really improv does teach you so many things about, thinking quickly and thinking fast on your feet, and, active listening and leading with acceptance. So sort of accepting the circumstances, an improviser stands on stage and, the audience gives them a give, which is like, you're a plumber. And so now, I didn't want to be a plumber. I want to be a doctor, but it's like, too bad. Now you're a
No,
plumber.
no,
And
you're a
so,
plumber.
yeah, dude, you're a plumber. So, so you accept that give from the audience. And so, it's not to say I'm not freaking out sometimes as a solopreneur often. But at the, that really did teach me a lot of resilience, and really in the curriculum and the stuff that I've taught over the years, and even presentation skills and coaching on communication strategies, I'm teaching folks a lot of the times skills from improv, that I've learned. And so even reviewing and reflecting on my own career performing improv comedy, has helped me kind of realize that these are sort of secret weapons I can use to improve.
Yeah, yeah. That, so I was a theater minor in college. And so
Nice.
I love improv. I've done stand up, I've done sketch comedy as well. And so I
Great.
know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
improv world very well, and I love improv.
Yes.
And
Yeah. It's
so
fun.
so I'm really curious about something. I'm really curious about how what was going on, the way that you adapted, the way that you have been able to really bounce back and bounce through it. What is the ADHD superpower that has helped you do that?
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great question. Also, so for me, I think I'm highly creative. And through my mindfulness and meditation practice, it's not like woo woo or anything. But it's about really focusing on being mindful rather than mindless, and slowing down enough in a moment to kind of curb the negative self-talk and all the things that come along. Right. Um, it's not to say I'm perfect that way. Hell no. But, with the support and therapy and medication and treatment that I've received for my ADHD, and understanding my own operating system, as I like to say, that has helped me, and being mindful, slow down enough to really, understand and give myself more grace as well. Really, for me, my superpower is really around communication more than it is anything else. And with there is sort of this. I have a presentation training and a talk that I do called the Root Down, and it's really about knowing yourself and respecting yourself and connecting yourself. That's sort of, but it's
Mm.
also about ADHD and my kind of journey with it. Um, and on Why Squirrels, also, I wrote an article about this a while back. I came to the conclusion that ADHD is not a superpower for most people. Um, there may be there may be superpowers associated with it, and I have strategies to find those. But as far as like ADHD being a superpower, I think that's I came up with the conclusion, and you can look at like ysquirrels.com/superpower, and you can see the image I made. But it's basically a graph, and the more privilege you have, and that's access and wealth and health and all that stuff,
Yeah.
more societal uh, 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 privilege, the more likely you're going to call ADHD a superpower, right? So if
Mm.
and not I'm not picking on Paris Hilton here, but she did write a song about ADHD being her superpower, uh, and that's great. But if you have Hilton money, um, with all due respect to Paris, you have like all that money and access and health and all that stuff, then you can take all sorts of creative, crazy ideas and just go at it, or start a business or start businesses and be as entrepreneurial and as creative as you want. And if stuff doesn't work out, it's no big deal. But for the
Yep.
most of us, for majority of us, if our business is failing like crap, right? And we might end up in debt or what have you. And it's far more stressful and all that. So I'm not a big believer in ADHD being a superpower for the majority of us.
Mhm.
But there are some things that come along with ADHD that might help.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for that, man, because that's I've actually kind of, gone back and forth with that myself where, on one hand, I keep thinking, I keep just replaying these big mistakes I've made in my careers and the projects, and the podcast listeners are sick of hearing me talk about this project, but these projects that didn't go well, but then at the same time realizing that when I'm sitting in a meeting and the meeting just seems to be going in a straight line and nobody can figure out the solution because they want everything to be a straight line. And my ADHD brain is all over the place. And I'm going, well, try this, try that,
Yeah,
but to
yeah,
me, that's the investment that I make in turning that disappointment into something else, and trying to figure out how that works out. I'm also curious though, because from one person with ADHD to another one, the
yeah.
thing that my therapist has worked with me on for over a year now is emotional regulation. That has been
Sure, yeah,
such a thing for me. Just figuring out how not to fly off the handle about things. Um,
yeah.
and so for you, I'm very curious for people who may be interested or who may not really understand uh, meditation or mindfulness techniques. Um,
Mhm.
for you, how does that work? I mean, what does that exercise look like for you?
Yeah.
And what does it do
So
for you? What does it do for you? Mhm.
right, yeah. Well, so I have so I started with using like apps that have like guided meditations, right? And but then I started to like Sam Harris, who's a podcaster and stuff, has a great app called Waking Up. That's the one I use a lot of the time, and he has a lot of great um, content in there that he's created, but then others as well. Um, and he studied like I forget his whole history, but he's done a lot of like study in India and Tibet, I believe, as well, um and so but there are plenty of other great apps and services. The key thing is to spend just like 5 minutes at first, and again, I'm not like a guru or anything like that, but like or I don't claim to be, but like sit like for 5 minutes and just close your eyes and just focus on your breath and just follow your breath. And it sounds simple. It's not, but I interviewed Joseph Goldstein on an episode of Why Squirrels, which I highly recommend folks who have interest in this topic. Also, Lydia Zylowska, because she wrote a book about meditation mindfulness for ADHDers. Um, but Joseph Goldstein is now 80 or 81, and he was one of like really three Americans who brought insight meditation to the West. So he's like old school, legit, like just the coolest guy in the world, and such a sweet, nice guy. Uh, but his whole thing is to celebrate the moments that you catch yourself. Like what happens a lot of times when you try to meditate is you close your eyes, you think about your breath or your maybe yeah, a little bit. You think about you think about you focus on your breath and how you're doing, and then you start thinking about like, I got to pick up the kids from school, or I got to do
Yep.
this or that or
Yep.
whatever, right? Or I'm hungry, whatever it is. The key thing is not to get frustrated in the moment and beat yourself up that I can't meditate, but
Yeah.
instead just return to the breath.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, you're just focused on your breath, and then you think, I want a sandwich, and then instead of like, damn, instead think like, Get back to the
Just
breath. And as soon as you get back to the breath,
yeah.
celebrate it. Because now you're
Yeah.
like cooking with gas. Now you're meditating. Like, and so his whole thing, or I mean, whole thing, he's got so much, but like part of it is just celebrating when you return to the breath and start again
Yeah.
and start again and start again and just keep starting again. Um, and there was a great interview with Dr. Gupta from like CNN or whatever, and he interviewed the Dalai Lama, and they were doing like a meditation together, and or it might have been a story, I can't remember, but I heard it from him, from Gupta, and he said he had his eyes closed, he's trying to meditate, and then he heard giggling. He's like, what the? And from the Dalai Lama, and he opens his eyes, and the Dalai Lama is like giggling, and he's like, what's up? And he's like, and the Dalai Lama is like, sometimes I can't concentrate or whatever, and he's like, whoa, hold on a second, like even the Dalai Lama can't always focus. But it's such an important point, right? Because it's part of meditation is you're going to get distracted. You'd
Yeah.
be, your brain would be dead otherwise. Right. Like, so it's not about beating yourself up every moment. And with
Yeah.
ADHD, obviously it's a little trickier, but with meditation, or not, with medication and treatment and support and all that stuff, it doesn't mean you can't meditate. And so if you go to, like, I think it's ysquirrels.com/steady, to steady the breath. I actually have like an exercise there with a clip from Joseph Goldstein, and you can actually you can follow along and do it, just to try to inspire people to try it.
So let's get back to this path in your career when things, went kind of haywire a little bit in 2020 with the
Mm,
the shutdown and everything that happened there. And it's hard to believe it's been 6 years since all that stuff happened, but yeah, it is really hard to believe that. But you turn this corner at some point in
yeah.
adapting to a new reality that you were in at that time. um, how did you feel yourself developing this sense of personal leadership where you were able to not only develop yourself, but then you were able to develop in a way that really benefited the people around you as well?
Mm. I think I've always been like a community guy, and not like I'm extroverted. I love people. I get excited around people, and I love helping people. So like I wrote a book years ago called New Business Networking, about partly about moving from Toronto to Nashville without knowing a soul besides my wife and kids, and sort of how I networked my way to get a job, and then another job, and then go out on my own as an entrepreneur and business owner. Um, and I have chapters on like running events, or attending events, and how to network properly there. And then also like using, LinkedIn and podcasting and Facebook and whatever, and ways to do that too. But I, and I used to like run events. So like, I ran something called Geek Breakfast, where like geeks could come and have breakfast together. And there was no sponsors, there was no strings. It was just like my three rules were like, if you register, show up, um, be cool, and tip your server.
Yeah.
Those are the three rules of Geek Breakfast, right? But at its peak, I had like, I don't know, like 60 people showing up every month. Even the mayor came, and
Oh, wow.
and that was a while back. But I'm really about like supporting folks and helping others. And I mean, I'm not like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or somebody, but it's all about like what I talk about with networking. I talk about like it's planting seeds, right? Call it karma, call it whatever, but you look for ways to serve the people in your community, the people and then not with the purpose of like, what can I get from them? but but instead, like, yeah, later down the line, maybe you are like, your business has changed and the world's upside down, and hopefully, maybe people will reciprocate at that time when you ask for help. And I think that's a key thing too, is having the gumption and the guts to ask for help, because as
Mm.
the line says, you don't get what you don't ask for. So I think it's important to reach out and, oh, it was even the threads thing, right? Like, I'm like, man, I want to get on more podcasts. I mean, I'm an old school podcaster. I love, and I don't want to be using some, weird AI shady business spamming people. So, so I put it out on threads and LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, anybody want me to join them on their podcast? I'd love to do that. And again, it's just putting yourself out there too. So I don't even know if I answer your question, but
Well, no,
here we are.
because you did, because it sounds like for you, where that personal growth and development comes in is investing in community. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 It's supporting. Yeah. And I think in this day and age too, I wrote a blog post a while back called The Power of Proximity, and really the importance nowadays with with AI, um, and the speed of technology. We're really at the mercy of algorithms when we're communicating online.
Yeah.
Had I not used a specific, hashtag or whatever, maybe you wouldn't have seen it. I don't know. Um, so we're really and even our closest friends. I had a call earlier today with an old speaker friend, and we were catching up. And he's like, "Yeah, I never see you on LinkedIn anymore." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm on LinkedIn every day, like posting stuff." But so we're really at the mercy of algorithms now. Social media isn't so social anymore, and so now it's all about getting back to in person and reconnected with people, and serving your community is certainly a great way to do that. We're at a loneliness epidemic
Yeah.
where the former Surgeon General Vivek Murphy said, and that loneliness is now, has the same negative health effects as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
And so, but the best way I think to curb that is to get the hell out of your house and go and meet people in person. I mean, you said you were in New Orleans, right? Like,
Yeah.
man, if I lived in New Orleans, I'd be out every night, and not on Bourbon Street, but I mean, talking about improv too, I mean, the music, jazz and everything in New Orleans is just, I mean, I don't have to tell people, and the food. Damn, I got to plan a trip to New Orleans. Now I'm getting hungry just thinking about food. You
Let me
guys have
know,
the best food in
man.
the world, man.
Let
So
me know.
be careful what you
So
ask for.
it's fascinating to hear you process this stuff. I almost feel as if I'm listening to myself right now,
Mm, mm,
especially when you connect the dots, of someone who just really cherishes communications, the communications process, and how
mm,
important it is. And so when you think about that turner, when you think about that corner that you were able to turn in your career after going through the lockdown and after going through everything you went through in the pandemic, um, with your career right now, I mean, clearly you've had some sense of bounce back as far as being able to coach and being able to speak and that sort of thing. But in doing all of this, especially after your diagnosis, with that mixed into all of it, how do you continue to invest in your personal growth and development outside of meditation, which
mhm.
is clearly a big thing for you? Um, are there any other specific tools or methods that you use to invest in your personal growth and development?
Yeah, I mean, I still blog, or whatever it's called nowadays, and I
I mean,
have a
doesn't it feel
Substack.
like you're almost going to say an outdated word sometimes, and you're just like, "Yeah, blog," and you're like, "Oh, is that the right word? Wait, what do we do now?"
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the space for so long, man. Like it was, even a web blog back in the day, right? Like it became
Yes,
a blog, and then WordPress became like the service to use, and still run a lot of websites, obviously. But,
and
but
internet with a
Word,
capital I.
yeah, 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 exactly. Right. Yeah. And then, yeah, I was going to say, and that now, like, oh, people are buying content management systems, and then it's a CMS. And it's like, well, what's a CMS? Does it have a blog? Like, and you're writing articles on the CMS, and it's like, dude, it's got RSS, so it's a blog post. So whatever, potato, right? Um, but yeah, I think investing in myself beyond what we are talking about. I think um, I try to go for like a three, not every day, but I try to go for like 3-4 mile day, walk every morning, get the heart going. I spend the time. I might listen to podcasts, or I might uh, have my AirPods in and just talk to myself and record it like a madman. Thank God for AirPods. Now we can walk down the street talking to ourselves, and nobody knows. They think
No,
I'm
I was gonna
talking on
care.
the phone. Yeah, and nobody cares. Yeah, there's that. So, but yeah, so exercise is a big one. Walking, um, that's huge because that's a big investment because especially with ADHD too, but everybody obviously. I mean, it's helpful. Um, you just catching up with people. The guy I spoke with earlier today, I hadn't spoken to in at least a few years. Another keynote speaker friend that we used to, end up at events together and kind of early adopters and a lot of stuff. So I think tapping back into old relationships and kind of reconnecting with people, um, keeping people in your network to like let them know what you're doing so that if there's opportunities, they may find them for you or introduce you to people that may lead you to that.
Mhm.
So being open minded to those kind of opportunities as they come. Um, those are like some of the big kind of investments. Really, just trying to get out of the house and go to events and things like that. So.
Yeah, yeah. Where do you see yourself? I'm just wildly curious about how you're going to answer this.
Mm.
But where is the high for you when it comes to your work as a communications expert? Where is that moment when you say to yourself, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm so glad I'm doing this."
It's on stages. Really, like as a speaker, I just I love. I always say I enlighten, empower, entertain. Right. So like enlighten audiences with new tools, new skills, teach them stuff. Right. Empower them by giving them the resources they need or the permission they need to apply what they've learned. So oftentimes, because I've written a lot about networking and things, I see the value in a group of people in an auditorium or an office or whatever together. It's like, guys, you can meet one another after I speak. Go like in the hall and whatever. So enlighten, with new skills, empower to teach them what to do and how to do it, and then entertain because with my goofball, uh, my stories and my humor, my improv background. I did 6 open mics in 6 weeks when I like a few years ago. So I need to get back at that. But yeah, I love it, and I love the challenge. Sometimes, I've had some tough audiences. I had my toughest actually last year in maybe 15, actually more than 15 years of speaking. And yeah, that's my happiest place. Besides that, coaching, I love one-on-one, just talking through and helping people kind of think through ideas and kind of give them like solving problems, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it is. So, but that would be the main things I think.
And I have to ask you this question also. Um, on Dave Delaney's best day, on your best day, who are you?
Hmm. On my best day, who am I? That's a good idea. That's a really great question. I'm a husband and a dad and a confidant and an entertainer, maybe.
Yeah,
I think that's and an advocate. I mean, that's the other part. Like with Wise Squirrels, I believe there are a lot of causes I care about. Um, but we can just burn out pretty quickly um, trying to solve all the world's problems. And what I've learned with ADHD is that when you have undiagnosed and untreated ADHD, your life expectancy can be up to 13 years less.
yeah,
And when I learned that, it made my Wise Squirrels kind of project that was sort of a passion project into a bit of a mission, really, is to educate people and to teach them about ADHD, remove stigmas, and also encourage people to get tested. Like I have a test on whysquirrels.com. It's free and I don't see the results, but regardless of the outcome of that test, really still talking to your doctor if you feel that you could have ADHD. It's like 1 out of every 16 people, give or take, and something like 20% don't know they have it. So that's a big one too. So as an advocate, but yeah, first and foremost, you know, right now we're empty nesters. So our kids are now both in college. Um, you know, they're both, become both, you know, they're 19 and 20 now. And my wife and I'm proud of the people that we've raised and the fact that we raised them. Cause they're both like kind and creative and just good people, and talented and stuff. So that's good. And then, yeah, my wife and I, you know, we've been together since God, 98. We met in 98. So, and we were married in 2001. So, you know, we've been married for 25 years this year and we're still best friends. And yeah, I drive her crazy, and vice versa a little bit, but more my doing probably. But you know, we love just kind of hanging out and traveling, and she's a school teacher too. So she's got a few more years to get done before, you know, retirement or whatever. So, yeah.
So I always end the podcast with this question for my guests. And the question is this. Let's say that you are a skywriter and you get to go up in a plane and write whatever message you want for the edification of the nation. What would Dave Delaney's message be?
Damn. That's not the message.
I was writing it down. Damn.
Maybe it is. Right now it might be actually. Don't believe in chemtrails. No, that's not it. It's a good question. It's a great question. Let me think.
That's okay, man. Don't push it. Don't rush it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe just something is like, it's almost cliche, but almost something like just like be kind, you know, or just like be a good dude, you know, or do that or whatever we're saying. But like, yeah, I mean, raising my kids, you know, I would always teach them, kind of reiterate the golden rule. And I'm not really religious but that general rule of like treating people the way you want to be treated is kind of in all the religious texts. And, you know, or if you're not religious, that it works quite fine too. And I think what I like with the root down, which is the presentation that I've been doing and with Why Squirrels and things. One thing in that I've learned is that if you don't treat yourself like it's well, first and foremost, that's why it's know yourself and then respect yourself and then connect yourself, because that's one problem with the golden rule is that if you treat people the way you want to be treated, but if you don't care how you're treated, or if you don't care about yourself, right, you might treat people really poorly. Right. And so you've got to put on your mask first. And you've got to take care of yourself first too. So, but I think ultimately it's about just being kind to yourself and being kind to the people in your community and everybody else. And, you know, I mean, nowadays, you know, I think if you live online, you would think the whole country is divided and everybody's pitchforks at everybody, you know, trying to kill everyone and everybody. And, you know, there is a little of it, but I think for the most part, when you step outside and you go talk to a stranger, maybe it's talk to strangers. That's another line I like to use, unless you're my kids. But is, you know, it's to understand that like everybody, it's not to say there aren't jerks out there. There are, you know, but everybody has the same concerns about their family, about them, you know, themselves, their friends and family, their community. Right. And then, you know, stretch it out from there. And we all have that same fear. The algorithms are designed to stoke those fears, and the jerks that are monetizing it through platforming bad people with bad ideas or just being bad people in general. We just shouldn't be giving them any attention, and they hopefully would go away. But I think getting outside, talking to strangers, talking to your neighbors, you'll soon find it. Even if you have different politics or different religions or whatever, at the end of the day, like I said, I think most people have the same concerns. And so I think the more that you can get out and talk to folks locally, and network or whatever you want to call it, go see a jazz show or go pig out on Cajun food. Oh my God. I'm so hungry right now. Uh, every time I think of New Orleans, that's it. It's like, man, such good music, such good food, good people too. But get out and just go talk to people. So yeah, be kind, man. Just be kind. That's it.
Dave Delaney, he's a communications expert. He's a speaker. Also, he is a leadership coach, and he's a host of the Wise Squirrels podcast. Dave, thank you so much for joining me on For Our Edification.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the blue shirt memo as well.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah, I try to keep us on the same page, man.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, man.